Okay. Welcome everyone to the monthly meeting of the SF Bay Ferry Board of Directors. Lisa, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Here.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Here.
Director Dew,
Here.
Director Faust,
Here.
Director Henneberry.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And unanimity and a full board. Please join me, if you will, in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. With that, welcome to San Francisco Bay Ferry's Board of Directors meeting. This monthly meeting is being conducted in person and by video conference and is being recorded to reduce background noise. All video conference participants will be joining the meeting in listen-only mode and will be muted during the discussion. SF Bay Ferry welcomes comments from the public. A public comment period will be set aside after each discussion period and will be accepted in person and by video conference. Video conference participants wishing to speak are requested to email your name and item number you'd like to comment on to boardofdirectors@sfbayferry.com. If you're unable to send an email, you will be given an opportunity to speak on the item after those who have signed up. So welcome. Good to see everyone. I hope you all enjoyed and had great Independence Day, July 4th celebrations, and certainly was a celebration for SF Bay Ferry as we were able to produce. We've been able to produce record-breaking attendance on our vessels lately in Pride Week and the July 4th, and people are definitely using the ferry, and it's very, very exciting. I was bragging about it this morning at the Solano Economic Development Corporation meeting, and I sent a nice note to Governor Newsom, and I got a nice note back, just kind of making him aware, of the progress, because he at one time sat on this board and has always been a big fan of what we're doing. So. Congratulations to the team for what you were able to achieve. I know it's a little stressful when you've got, in some cases, so many people lined up to get on some of these trips. But I think the feedback has been really good, and if we are experiencing a little bit of overcrowding, we'll probably talk about that. We'll put it in the column of a good problem to have, and we'll solve it. So with that, let me turn it over to our Vice Chair, Monique Moyer, and for comments and to my fellow directors.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Wonderman. And I want to acknowledge and thank you for your continued advocacy and on behalf of the agency and keeping everybody informed on the progress. And I know we're going to talk about ridership later, but that is exciting news. I caught one of the stories on the news last night. It was very complimentary, but also very gratifying. So that was super fun. The only thing that I want to add is just I wanted to acknowledge the passing of Scott Haggerty, who, if any of you had the privilege of knowing Scott, he was an amazing transportation advocate here in the Bay Area. He passed away in the last day or two. And he is responsible for a number of transportation improvements all around the Bay, some small, some big, but he was just tireless and completely passionate, and so just wanted to use the opportunity to in memoriam thank him for his efforts.
Yeah, thanks. Maybe we shall adjourn the meeting in Supervisor Haggerty's honor. Yeah. Roseanne Faust?
I just want to say thank you to the team, because every time I see a story about SF Bay Ferry, I'm proud to serve on this board, and I want to thank our executive director and your team. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. Director Dew.
I also want to thank the team. That was just really exciting to see that news. And in fact, I was getting congratulated in Vallejo this morning for that. And so people are paying attention. People are excited about it. And just really proud of the work you guys are doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Director Henneberry.
Thank you, Chairman. There was a really good piece on KQED this morning and talking about the ridership continuing to shatter records. So that's really great stuff. And it's all due to the staff, the crews, and our loyal customer base. Also, I saw the SF Bay Ferries group in the Alameda Parade. So everybody that was there, thank you. You did a great job.
No, it's terrific. I took the ferry in a couple of days ago in the middle of the day from Oakland, and you know, if I had done that a couple of years ago, it would have been me and the person running the concession, and to see there's a big lineup of people going into the city. And when I got into San Francisco, there's a big lineup of people coming out. So people are really, I think, getting the news that the ferry system is the best way to cross the bay, unquestionable. Let me turn it over to Executive Director Seamus Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. Thanks for those kind words. I also want to thank the team for organizing the 4th of July parade float, a little mini ferry float in Alameda. That was just a really great way for us to participate in Alameda's celebration of Independence Day, and they're of course an important market for us and really great partners. Tom Hall and Lexi Matsui and their teams did a great job organizing that, and they're the same team that made sure that we got our ridership news out and made sure it was covered in all of these various outlets. So hats off to them for making that happen. Pretty abbreviated executive director's report this month. I do want to highlight a couple of issues in the state legislative report, and we have our state legislative advocate Matt Robinson on the Zoom to give us an update on the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund decision that happened recently, and also talk to us about the Local Taxpayer Protection Act, two relevant issue areas that affect our work moving forward. I'll turn it over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Seamus, and thank you, board members, for allowing me to zoom in today. Yeah, as Seamus mentioned, there's been a lot of activity in the cap and invest space, which really kicked off in January and then gained a lot of steam and momentum in April when the Air Resources Board released an update to their draft regulations that, just to cut to it and not bury the headline, have the effect of reducing a significant amount of funding from the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund program. And why that's relevant, we have come to enjoy funding from grant programs like the TRSCP. A lot of our local agencies have seen funding through the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities program. And then SF Bay Ferry as an operator also gets some formula dollars out of the GGRF program. And once the revised regulations came out, CARB zone estimates had the fund reducing by anywhere from $1.5 billion to $2 billion a year. Just as a reminder, back at the end of last session, the legislature and the governor agreed on a new investment structure for cap and invest GGRF revenues that took us from what used to be an off-the-top allocation of 10% for TRCP and 5% for LC top to a tiered approach where there were some priorities up top, first money out, tier 2, second money out, and then tier 3, last money out. And things at the top included the state responsibility area backfill for CAL FIRE, for example. Things in the second tier were $1 billion for high-speed rail and $1 billion for legislative priorities. And then once you got down into the third tier, you had some dollar amounts for TRCP and LC top, $400 million and $200 million. Long story short, in order to hit that target and get all of those programs whole, you had to have a cap and trade program, or cap and invest, excuse me, I'm still not used to that, program that was going to throw off about $4.2-ish billion. And so the actions at CARB, I think, while we don't know them for sure yet, the expectation is they are going to eliminate, at least for the foreseeable future through 2031, the funding for the tier 3 programs that we have come to know and love for the last 12-ish years or so. And so in response to that action, a pretty large coalition was formed, not only to push back on what happened at the Air Resources Board, but also to gear up for a legislative, I'll I'll call it a fight for the last month of session where the stakeholder groups are pushing for a review of the expenditure plan that was just adopted, potentially some changes to that expenditure plan to make sure that the transit and rail agencies are on more solid footing moving forward in cap and invest. And while the legislature is currently on their spring recess through August 3rd, the work continues. There have sort of been these two coalitions, one of, I'll call it the local transportation agencies, cities, counties, et cetera, the regional agencies, and then you have statewide stakeholder organizations like the California Transit Association, which has been leading the charge. Executive Director Murphy's an executive committee member of that body, but it's partnered with groups like the Alliance for Jobs and labor unions and the state housing groups, Spur, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they are expecting some at least conversations to be had for the remaining months of or weeks of July, excuse me, and then as the legislature reconvenes in August. I will say I think the Senate is probably the strongest ally for our effort. They are not happy with how things were upended. I think the governor's administration is very much, okay with the action that CARB took and potentially the downstream impacts that may come from that. And then the assembly is a little bit in the middle. So I think you'll see more of a focused campaign in the weeks ahead as we head towards the end of session, which this year is a little bit earlier, August 31st. And so more to come on that. But I do think, we have been encouraging folks to be reaching out to their state delegation members and letting them know that, this would have some devastating impacts to transit agencies, both on the capital side, but also on the operating side at a time where, as you all know, because you have heard this story, we are a broken record at this point. We cannot afford to do it. So fingers crossed for a positive outcome. We'll be doing everything here as your advocates to make sure that, hopefully we don't lose everything by the time the legislature wraps this year. And just, you've already said it once today, but I'll say it again, kudos to the team. They have been doing everything that has been asked of us by the folks that have been leading the charge. So really appreciate Lauren and Seamus and others that have been helping us move this message forward at a statewide level in the legislature. So Seamus, I can stop there on Cap and Invest. I'm sure there's questions and comments, and then I'll do probably a more confusing rundown on what happened with the Taxpayer Protection Act in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Any questions from the board about the GGRF impacts? Okay, we can move to the Local Taxpayer Act. Matt, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So I think most folks, we put it in our past reports to the board, but there has been an effort that goes actually back to the 2024 election cycle where the California Business Roundtable and the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association had attempted to move forward a statewide ballot initiative that would have closed the loophole on the Citizens Initiative special taxes, all coming from that Upland decision that occurred a number of years ago and has been implemented successfully by several local agencies, some in the transportation space. It has been attempted by others who either have not gotten to the necessary vote threshold of 50% plus one or have been boxed out by another local measure, which was the case in, I think, the recent attempt in San Francisco. But what it all means is that would have required all of those measures, including, some would argue, the Bay Area regional measure to pass at that 2/3 vote threshold that is required for special taxes that are placed on the ballot by a local government, a city, county, or special district. The other thing the Taxpayer Protection Act would have done was it would have set limits on transfer taxes occurring on real estate transactions and with a focus on charter cities who aren't subject to statewide limits like non-charter cities are. And this is in response to a measure that was passed in Los Angeles, which increased those transfer taxes in order to fund homelessness programs to much the dismay of local developers and housing builders. And so in order to try to close the door on that, the legislature, as it often does, will negotiate with ballot measure proponents and try to get those off the ballot in exchange for something maybe more comfortable to the legislature and their constituencies. And this year, in response to the Taxpayer Protection Act, which had gathered the necessary signatures and was qualified, they floated two different options. The first thing that we saw was legislation that would have set maybe more reasonable limits on the transfer taxes in the state that the California Business Roundtable was satisfied with. But that did not satisfy the head of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, who insisted his biggest priority was closing the Citizens Initiative loophole for special taxes. And he was the only one that could notify the Secretary of State's office to take the measure off the ballot. And so in the final week of June, we saw Assembly Constitutional Amendment 22, authored by Assemblymember Wicks, come into print. And that measure, beginning January 1st, if it's successfully enacted by the voters on the November general election ballot, if it does pass and it only requires 50% of the vote, all special taxes, no matter how they get to the ballot, would need a 2/3 supermajority to pass. And I want to really emphasize the effective date of the measure is January 1st, 2027, meaning things on this coming November ballot would not be impacted by that. And so I think the folks in the legislature that agreed to that, while they may not support it on the ballot, we're well aware of that timeline. And so currently, we don't anticipate there would be impacts to the recent effort by folks in the Bay Area to qualify their citizens initiative and have that approved by a majority vote. So a lot of moving parts, as I said. I think that one's a big one for you all. I think there were some questions about what the old Taxpayer Protection Act would have done vis-a-vis the regional measure, probably coming down to which one got more votes on the November ballot. But nonetheless, they seem to have, at least for now, staved off the impacts of that measure on the Bay Area regional measures. So, Seamus, again, thank you, or sorry, Executive Director Murphy, excuse me. Thank you, Board Chair Wonderman. Happy to answer any questions, and hope to see you guys in person soon.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. So that was a good report. Good in terms of helping us understand where things are. Not so good in terms of thinking about the future and how hard things are and will be. And so it seems to me, I've served on quite a number of task forces, regional and state. In many cases, Seamus has served with me on those, and we really do need to do something as a community for transit and transportation in California. The budget of the state has ballooned over the last number of years, and people are talking about it. Why is it so much bigger? Why are we spending so much more money? And so a corollary is, why are we spending so much more money, but there's no money for transportation, and we're actually facing cuts when the budget is growing so much? So I think it's a really good question. As another governor, new administration will come in, and there's some new folks coming into the legislature, and of course in local government and so forth. We really need to be thinking about, in this region and in this state, what is a reasonable budget, what our reasonable expenditures look like in order to achieve the vision that we have for the state to get more and more people to use mass transit, to get our systems to work better, more reliably, more safely, and so forth. And I think this organization, when you think about the article today and many other articles that show the sort of the prowess of the organization in attracting people and delivering the results, I think we kind of have a role to play in this. And Seamus is very highly regarded in the transportation community, and so we should take advantage of that. And so, I'd like to think more, about how we might play a role in the months ahead and the years ahead as we consider, what can we actually do about this? Because transportation should be a higher priority than it's been, or that it's being, or than it will be if we don't do anything about it. So anyway, thank you. Good report. Others?
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. We'll move on to the ridership report. Obviously, good news to cover there. Gabe Chan is going to give us a little bit more flavor to ridership since we've finished the fiscal year. There'll be a more detailed fiscal year ridership wrap up coming at a future meeting, but we wanted to give you a little preview before that.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Gabriel Chan, Transportation Planner here at SF Bay Ferry. So June was a big month for the region, as you probably know. We had a lot of travel demand due to events like the World Cup coming here, events at Chase Center, as well as Giants baseball continuing. And so in June, we had just over 330,000 boardings on the system. And for fiscal year 26, we ended the year at 3.25 million boardings total, which is over 200,000 above our projection for fiscal year 26. June also marked the 7th straight month that we recorded over 2019 ridership levels. And year over year, we saw a 15% increase compared to June of last year. Something that staff is continuing to monitor, especially during kind of these big event weekends, are near 100% occupancy on some of our trips from Oakland, Alameda, and Vallejo, especially. And we also saw a lot of ridership, just weekends in general, with Saturdays and Sundays rivaling our Mondays and Fridays. So looking at regional operators, BART registered about 51% of ridership compared to pre-pandemic, and Caltrain saw about 73%. So SF Bay Ferry continues to outperform our regional partners there. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, directors?
Thanks, Gabe. That was a great report, as always. And I do really like the schematics that you provide for all of us. That's really helpful month over month. Do you happen to know how ridership is doing on the Golden Gate Ferry? So is ridership across the board for ferries up, or do we know? Do we have any sense of that?
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head, but that's information that we can get to you pretty easily.
That'd be interesting to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gabe. Chair Wonderman, that concludes the Executive Director's report.
Fantastic. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it very much, and just so great to see so many folks coming to the ferry system, and I think it is it's really a statement about the quality of the service, this organization, and of course the workers who are so dedicated to making the passenger experience so great. So thank you to every worker on our system. With that, let's go to item number 6, which is the consent calendar. There's 3 items: approval of the minutes and approval to an amendment to the salary schedule. We can keep it on the consent calendar, but I did want to point out that the second item is a resolution of appreciation for Alameda Mayor Marilyn Ezzy Ashcraft. So Mayor Ashcraft has been a vital part of the community that's been in support of ferry service for many years. So as we take an action on the consent calendar today, just want to thank Mayor Ashcraft for her dedication. With that, is there anyone who wants to pull an item for consideration? Can we get a motion on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Is anyone signed up to speak on item 6 from the
No one
public?
has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to or remove an item? If not, call the roll, please.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes, thank you.
Director Dew,
Yes.
Director Faust. Yes. Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The consent calendar carries.
Thank you. Item number 7, approve memorandum of understanding for the Treasure Island Terminal Electrification Project.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Mike Gowerty, Director of Planning, with my committee here. So this item's narrowly focused on a memorandum of understanding to execute a terminal electrification project at Treasure Island, but we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of highlight the bigger picture in terms of what we're doing with the REEF program and electrification in general, as well as some specifics on the future Treasure Island service that will be operated by San Francisco Bay Ferry. So I'm going to invite Jan Rybka, Senior Project Manager, to speak to REEF Phase 1, and then Dory Funaki, our Transportation Planner, will speak a bit to some of the service planning efforts that are underway.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, directors. As Mike mentioned, I'm going to give you a quick recap and refresher on the Treasure Island Terminal Electrification Project and a little bit on the REEF Phase 1 schedule. It's been a while since we've had an update, and we have a new board member as well. So it may be helpful to give some extra context before we dive into the memorandum of understanding. To start off, the first all-electric vessel that we're going to be delivering is the Seawolf, a 150-passenger all-electric ferry. Services at 25 knots, 100-foot long, all aluminum, using azimuthing propulsors. And it's currently under construction at All American Marine in Bellevue, Washington. Showing you a nice rendering of what it will look like, as well as a nice picture of what it looks like as of about a week and a half ago. So aluminum is moving relatively quickly in structure, and we're starting to deliver major components for the unit. I think the propulsion units themselves will be in stateside shortly. A few more parameters to go through. It's 1,800 horsepower, 67 tons, if anybody is particularly interested. What's more important, and speaking to our passenger satisfaction, is it's really designed around passenger satisfaction for a 8 to 10 minute transit. So large windows, a lot of bench seating and stools. There's an open aft deck for looking at the beautiful skyline of San Francisco as it transits back and forth to Treasure Island. The charging station is aft, and that's that blue box that you see on the stern of the vessel. And the forward boarding location to help speed up passenger movement is an automated ramp system that's a little wider than our standard gangways. So a hydraulic system that's going to drop that down to the dock. We anticipate this vessel to be service ready by July of 2027. That's for the first delivery. On the shore side, we have already, not we, but our partners at Tida and Tima have already built the Treasure Island terminal, but it wasn't built for electrification as that wasn't part of the requirements at the time. And since it has become so, we are working on this electrification project. That has a bunch of components, and the board has approved some actions to further that work. Primary among it is a float-mounted charging system, which is primary power conversion equipment. And we ordered that system 6 months ago, as a long lead time item to be provided for construction. That's with tritium. You can see it in this rendering as the two white, sort of 4 white towers that are on the back end of the float there, as well as those gray boxes that are aft of the most stern-mounted walkway. It also includes a whole bunch of medium voltage power conversion equipment from the utility that's going to go shoreside, so transformers and switch gears. The board has also approved that acquisition, and that equipment is all under production right now. And we're going to be installing this stuff along with an aft walkway, that's that most aft walkway to get to the charging access point, on a larger construction contract that the board should be seeing for award in October, November timeframe. Make sure I don't miss anything here. The ultimate results of all that equipment and construction is going to be delivering 1,300 kilowatts of power from the utility into direct current power for charging the vessels, and that'll be a 9 to 10 minute charging action for each boat through 2 plugs, and it's standardized equipment to match what we're doing at our other terminals on the larger universal charging float. I mentioned schedule, and I put it on a simple timeline so it's a bit easier to see, as there's a lot of moving pieces within this. And this speaks to the broader Reef Phase 1 schedule timeline. The first thing that we'll be delivering is overnight charging for the new vessels at our Central Bay Operations and Maintenance Facility. So that's a small upgrade to our existing power to be able to charge the batteries overnight. We're anticipating that's coming in April of 27. That modified float and the connection of all the pieces that I spoke about earlier at Treasure Island is anticipated to deliver by June of 27, while the first boat, will be delivering in July of 2027 or ready for service by then. We're working hard and just released an RFP for the Mission Bay modular float that will be equipped with electric charging components to time it with the port's delivery of the Mission Bay Ferry Terminal, or I think Mission Bay Ferry Landing Terminal, I should say. We're trying to meet their timelines for construction, but the second boat delivers a bit further out in November 28, when we'll commence Mission Bay service from downtown. That's the overall broad scope of the program and a brief update. I'll pause for questions before I hand off the mic, if there's any. Absolutely. Thank you.
What's the level of confidence on the timeline?
That's an excellent question.
I know, that's why I asked him.
I'm putting it at 95% for the final delivery, and whether the start happens in October or November, or when I went back to you for award of the final construction contract, I'm putting that at like 80% confidence interval at the earlier time frame.
Just to talk a little bit about the vessel. So the timeline that you're seeing that was presented to you is after 5 months of commissioning and testing. And so we know, first of its kind vessels coming here. And so we're allotting 5 times after the delivery of it to do crew training, familiarization, and just to kind of work out the bugs and trial her in the bay. So very confident on the delivery of vessel number 1 from All American.
Thanks, Jan. Good afternoon, board members. So now we will provide a brief overview of service planning for Treasure Island Ferry Service. In 2021, as part of the Treasure Island Transportation Implementation Plan, the Treasure Island Ferry Terminal was completed. However, as mentioned earlier, the existing terminal does not include charging infrastructure. Since 2021, the terminal currently supports 7-day-a-week ferry service funded by the Treasure Island Community Developer and operated by Prop SF. Fares for this service are at $5 one way. Okay. For the past 2 years, we, SF Bay Ferry staff, have been working closely with TIMA staff on a business plan for Treasure Island Ferry Service. This business plan is a recipe for supporting electric ferry service that will be operated by SF Bay Ferry. The main ingredients, as you can see on this slide, are roles and responsibilities, ridership projections, proposed electric vessel service, capital and operating costs, a 10-year funding plan, fares, and schedules prior to service launch. The planned service will mirror current service levels provided by Prop SF. This service includes daily 15 round trips, 7 days a week. And here's another graphic provided by our engineering team of the future ferry. Okay, so more getting into the meat of this. So within the business plan, we have identified the costs and funds. So here we have 2 tables. The top table shows the costs of future ferry service, and the bottom table shows identified funds. And so as part of SF Bay Ferry's expansion policy, we require, or this agency requires, a minimum 10-year funding plan. So the funds that we have identified for this future ferry service are outlined in this bottom table. Currently, the business plan has identified a very small funding gap, about between $300,000 and $2.3 million for the future ferry service. We anticipate closing this very small funding gap prior to service launch next year. Okay, so unless you have any questions, I'll pass this on to Mike.
One quick question on the schedule. So, we show on weekdays 8 o'clock being the last run, I think, and on the weekend, up to 9 p.m. So just, thinking about people living as the population of Treasure Island is growing, and it's part of San Francisco, and there's really an attachment and there's really a dependency because if you can't, if you find yourself here on the mainland, so to speak, and you live over there, it's going to be a little tough to get home. Not that you can't do it, but it'll be harder. Was any thought been given to stretching out the hours a little bit so that people could feel, better about going out to dinner or entertainment and those kind of things and getting back home? Because it's going to be pretty populated over there in a few years.
Yeah, the service planning has been, a practice of working within constraints. And so we've already stretched the hours a bit further than we typically do on a service that's going to be supported by 2 crews. So you have one crew 8 hours in the morning, the other 8 hours in the evening. So to stretch them as far as we have right now, it does create a gap in the midday schedule of about 2 to 3 hours. And so we've been working closely with TIMA to develop the service plan as part of the larger business plan, and just didn't feel comfortable with just the 2 crews of stretching the hours of operation even to have a longer span, because that midday gap would become even larger. So I think the longer term solution is to ultimately find more operating money to support the service, and then ideally you'd bring in a 3rd crew, even a 4th crew, and then you could have those extended hours of operation without a significant gap in the midday period. But unfortunately, the answer is more money.
Always the answer. Well, almost always. Yeah, it just seems like, we want to make sure that when we start operating this, I think people are going to pay a lot of attention, and there'll be changes. There are changes happening over there, and, we want to make sure that we're going to be the responsible agent for getting people back and forth. Did it show that the funding is predicated on a $3 toll being put in place? Is that correct? In 2030.
So right here, this funding table that we've been working with TIMA, it represents like the toll in later years, and the assumption here is a $5 fare within the funding table.
The toll is $3, and they're assuming that it begins in 2030. So that's an action that would still need to be taken by the Board of Supervisors to implement.
Mm-hmm. Confidence level on that one?
It's always shifting.
They need to do it because.
I'll get back to you on that one after I confer with my TIMA colleagues.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, chapter 3 of the presentation here. So the actual MOU. So these are a memorandum of understanding to implement the project. Our agency approaches these as kind of a best practice prior to awarding a construction contract. It's very clear about which agency participating in the project is responsible for what. About a year and a half ago, we brought a similar document to you for the construction of the Mission Bay Ferry Terminal, and it's really helpful along the way. Even if each agency retains a staff along the way, people forget things. It's a great way to memorialize who's responsible for what. So we think of it as best practice. It's also a very exciting project. It's going to be the first, this project will result in the first electrified ferry terminal in the Bay Area, and will allow us to launch the first electrified ferry service in the Bay Area. This MOU is a little different than some other MOUs we've had. It's a 3-party MOU. So in addition to San Francisco Bay Ferry, we also have TIMA as a signatory to the MOU, and they're the agency that's responsible for the on-island transportation program. We also have TIDA, and TIDA is in effect the property owner for the island. And in attendance today, we have Joey Benassini. He's the vertical development project manager for TIDA, and I'll invite him up at the end of the presentation to say a word or two about the project. So those key roles and responsibilities. Here we go. Those key roles and responsibilities. For each of the three agencies, we've provided a summary here in the slide. There's a full accounting of the roles and responsibilities in the MOU attached to the staff report. For San Francisco Bay Ferry, our roles are threefold. We'll be providing funding for the project. We'll be, in effect, managing the entire design and construction project of the built components that will result as part of the project. So it includes design, procurement of the construction contract, as well as execution of the construction contract and construction management. For TIMA, the on-island manager of the transportation program, they'll be providing funding. And then for TIDA, TIDA will be providing some really key support that has been really helpful to memorialize in this MOU. So in addition to design review, TIDA is committed to helping us facilitate the issuance of building permits and other right-to-enter permits that will be required to construct the project. And so based on previous experience with construction projects, this is a really valuable commitment from a key partner on the project. Lastly, and really significantly, because this is a kind of new project for us, the MOU lays out future responsibilities as it pertains to the electrical charging infrastructure that's built. So for the front of meter infrastructure, so that's the infrastructure that goes from the existing grid powered by SFPUC to the meter, which is located in the vicinity of the ferry terminal. That infrastructure, TIDA is arranged for the SFPUC to assume ownership, operation, and maintenance responsibilities for. So that leaves what's referred to as the back of meter infrastructure, the infrastructure from that meter located at the ferry terminal to the point of charge on the float. That infrastructure will be the responsibility of San Francisco Bay Ferry to own, operate, and maintain. In terms of what this looks like on a map, this is the front of the meter infrastructure is generally the infrastructure indicated by the yellow line. So this includes the transformer, meter, as well as below grade infrastructure. The back of meter infrastructure, generally the components along the blue line indicated from the meter to the float at 4E includes switchgear, below grade infrastructure, pure transition vault, as well as feeders and conduit. One of the most significantly challenging parts of developing this project was finding a place to put all this stuff. In general, people don't like to see vaults and boxes along a beautiful waterfront area like this. And so I'd like to really acknowledge the work of Chad Mason, our capital planning manager, as well as Joey Benassini, who will come up and speak in a bit, to really work in particular with the BCDC to collaborate on an acceptable placement for the location of this infrastructure along a very valuable public access part of the waterfront. Lastly, the MOU includes the funding plan for the project. And so the great news is that we have a fully funded project. Total cost for the project is $6.8 million. One thing I'd like to note about the funding plan for the project that's not indicated here is the really successful leveraging that we were able to pull off with the RM3 money that's participating in the project. So we have just a little over $500,000 of the Regional Measure 3 capital funds that were available to the agency, and we're able to use that money to secure $2.2 million in state funding from the TRCP program, $3 million in regional funds from the MTC State of Good Repair program, and then also $1 million from the Treasure Island developer on behalf of TIMA to round out the full picture of funding. So we're really pleased with how far we were able to stretch a relatively limited amount of RM3 money participating in the project. That is the summary of the MOU. I'm happy to receive any comments or answer any questions you have about the item.
One quick on the environmental. Who's the lead agency, and how's that going to work? You had it under shared responsibility, but I don't think you could do that, right?
I've got. I'm going to invite Joey come up and just speak on the environmental review. It was unclear at the time of drafting, beginning to draft the MOU, exactly whose responsibility it will be, but we've since completed that project. Maybe Joey can give you an update on where that stands.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, directors. Joey Benassini, Vertical Development Project Manager with TIDA, and excited to be here today. It's been a long time coming. On the environmental review, for the overall development, we got our CEQA clearance and environmental approval back in 2011. But for this project specifically, we got a statutory exemption approved by SF Planning and issued in like middle of 2025. And, you know, I wanted to thank you for your consideration of this MOU today. Like I said, it's been a long time coming for the design, permitting, funding, and construction of the charging infrastructure to support zero-emission ferry service between Treasure Island and downtown San Francisco, which is really revolutionary. You know, ferry service is a critical, super critical component of the Treasure Island redevelopment plan. When Chad Mason was at our board meeting for the approval last month, that same day before, we had actually had a truck that got jackknifed and shut off the only road in and out of the island for like 4 hours. CHP was there assisting with the situation, but it just kind of highlights the importance of the ferry service. And you know, we have about 1,000 housing units completed out of 8,000 total for the island, and the population is growing. It was a little bit slow getting started, but all the units are leasing up like hotcakes now. So that's very exciting, and as the island continues to grow and we expand, reliable and sustainable transit connections will just become increasingly important to serve the workers, visitors, and residents. This MOU, as Mike mentioned, you know, clearly defines the roles of each agency, so we can efficiently advance the project and coordinate the delivery of this infrastructure in coordination with a lot of ongoing work around the islands right now. So I just want to thank SF Bay Ferry staff, TIMA staff, our private development partner, Treasure Island Community Development, who have got us, you know, built the ferry terminal and the infrastructure serving it up to that point. And we appreciate all the coordination, your time today, and look forward to building on our partnership and getting this operating. Thank you, and also available for questions.
I was hearing on the news yesterday that you'll have a penthouse apartments available for 18,000 a month that include IV therapy and other cool stuff like that. So I was wondering if there's an SF Bay Ferry discount available for our staff, because I think we need that. Congratulations. Thanks. Yeah, I know it's been a lot of years of work. I worked on this project, I think it was for Mayor Jordan back in the 1990s when we were, you know, beginning the process, I think, of really thinking this one through. So, you know, it's come a long way. It's taken a long time, but I think it's going to be, you know, a phenomenal addition to San Francisco and the Bay Area. And again, you know, to reflecting back on what I said earlier, I think that the ferry service is going to be a real value add to the people who live there. And as that 1,000 goes toward 8,000, the demand for that service to be frequent and earlier and later and all those kinds of things, I have a feeling is going to grow. And so we should try to get ahead of that and, you know, figure out how to fund that additional gap that could provide a little bit, you know, a little wider service. But I guess we'll get to that. And thank you. Other members?
Sure. I don't want to disappoint you. First and foremost, this is wonderful to see. Thank you so much for the work. Super excited. I was just sitting and thinking about how far the island has come since its inception, and to put that in perspective, one of the things that was showcased in the World's Fair was automobiles themselves and trying to win that market from horse and carriage. And here we are talking about the first U.S. Electrified ferry. So it's pretty phenomenal to think about, actually. I'm super glad to be here for that time of our history. A couple of quick questions. In thinking about that population growth, remind me, is the terminal itself, and then will this system accommodate a larger vessel, or are we always going to be capped at the smaller vessel?
The float is built to our regional standard, so it's interoperable with other vessels. I know as our current fleet exists today, not every vessel can go in there, not because of fit issues with the float, but because of navigability issues
With
that
the
are
channel.
specific to particular vessels. But in general, we've designed the facilities and thought of the service as being compatible in the future with larger vessels as demand warrants.
Okay, and so does that mean that theoretically a larger vessel could also charge there?
Tim,
I don't know that I understand the differences in power required between the vessels.
Yeah, so the larger vessels require a larger charge rate for the longer routes like Oakland or Seaplane and our mid-range routes, but we're still going to be able to charge those large boats at Treasure Island and or Mission Bay and work those vessels into those services. You just won't be able to charge at that high rate.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that pragmatism, though. That's really important to build that redundancy into the system. Thank you. Mike, 7% contingency on something we've never done before. How are you feeling about that?
It's better than 5, but you know Dory mentioned the business plan is a work in progress right now. We're hoping to bring it to the board this fall. There are a lot of things that are going to be iterative as we grapple with what the costs of the service are going to be, what the anticipated revenues are going to be. Obviously, we've never operated these boats. That's going to be something that we're going to have to kind of sharpen the pencil as things go along and make sure that we're carrying the right contingencies in the right areas as we identify unknowns. In some instances, those unknowns will become more known. One of the areas of uncertainty right now is the cost of electricity. We're hoping to get more information about that. And in the event that we do, we'll feel comfortable with a certain level of contingency. In the event that that information doesn't come through, we'd have to look at potentially putting in some more contingency for those items. And the other area to note, and we've communicated this to our partners, is we're going to be operating under a new service operations contract in the next year. And we've just received proposals for that, so we haven't had a chance to look at what impact, if any, that would have on the future cost of the service. So it's really great that we've had a partner in TIMA that's willing to kind of engage in a business plan process to begin working through some of those things to make sure that a number like 7% at the end of the day is the right number to put in there to represent the unknowns we know about the project, the unknowns we don't know about the project.
Oh, good. Thank you for managing our expectations. It sounds like there's a good probability we'll see you again on this item, but super excited for it. Mr. Benassini, thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here in person, and more importantly, kudos for all the work that you all have done. It's pretty astounding. Would you mind giving us a little color of how ferry ridership is faring for the island, and how's its reception? Do you have a sense of, are the passengers commuting? Are they visitors? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, definitely over the past couple of years, as some of these larger rental buildings have opened up, we've seen a surge in use and ridership on the ferry. They also, there's a mandatory transit pass as part of the overall development of Treasure Island that's required for all the housing developments to reduce car reliance and whatnot, and there's limited parking on the island. So it seemed like over the past year, some of the rental buildings went from partially rented to now they're all north of 90% and stabilized for the most part. So there's definitely been heavy demand from not only commuters, but there's a ton of events that we have on weekends and during the week, related to like FIFA World Cup or concerts in the parking lot, like right across from the ferry terminal. So definitely a lot of visitors to the islands, but also now it seems that the daily commuters are picking up.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's it for me.
That it, or we got more?
That's it. But
That's it. All right. Well, that was it. That was a great report. A lot of so much discussion about this over the years. So this is an action item, and let's maybe start by taking a motion on the MOU.
I'll make a motion to approve the electrification of Treasure Island station.
I'll second.
And we have a second. Thank you. Is anyone signed up to speak on item 7?
No one has signed up to speak.
Would anyone like to speak on item 7, either here or in the virtual world? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close off the public comment period on this, and please call the roll.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Dew,
Yes.
Director Faust,
Yes.
Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
And hopefully that included the SF Bay Ferry discount. Item number 8, award contract to Curtin Maritime Corp. For the South San Francisco dredging project.
Testing. All right, I only have one slide here. First off, good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, Vice Chair Moyer, and Board of Directors. My name is Brian Garrity, and I'm a project manager here at WETA, and I'm overseeing the dredging project. So I'm going to tell a little bit of a story. Like I said, we only have one photo here, not a whole slide deck like Mike had, which was a really good one. But in your board report, we are asking you to award a contract to Curtin Maritime for $2.3 million and some change, and authorize the executive director to execute the contract and take all related actions. I'll give a little background why we're dredging. So we've been operating in South San Francisco since about 2012, and we have to dredge periodically to maintain the navigable channel. I think the last dredging was in 2018, so it's been about 8 years. And I want to get ahead of everything. This dredging episode will take about 2 weeks. We got approved to do night work from City of South San Francisco, and we're working in close coordination with our partners at the Harbor District and Tom in operations to communicate and make sure we're as least disruptive as possible. I'll explain a little bit about our partnership. In case you might be wondering, why does the total include non-WETA work? So one of the big costs with dredging is the mobilization and demobilization work. Get all your equipment up, get your crew up, get set up. In this case, the equipment's coming up from Long Beach. And our partners, the Harbor District, they have a guest dock and another dock, I think dock 11, that also needs some maintenance dredging. So last year we entered into an MOU with them to basically say, hey, let's consolidate our dredging effort, where San Mateo County Harbor District would pay for their share of the dredging and WETA would pay for our share. And the way that the MOU structured it, WETA pays it, and then we get reimbursed by the Harbor Board. So that's just one little, not discrepancy, but we're awarding for $2.3 million, and we're only going to be paying a little bit under $2 million. The Harbor District is going to go to their board next month to get authorization for their share, which is about $350,000. So I'll go over, we had an IFB, pretty standard procurement. We had 2 bids. We opened it on June 23rd, and Curtin Maritime was the apparent low bidder at just over $1 million. So I want to talk a little bit about this price change because I think that might have been a little bit confusing on the board report. I hope we explained it okay. But obviously we're asking for more money than $1.08 million. And this was because we have to go to the DMMO, which stands for the Dredge Material Management Office, to get approval for the final placement site of the dredge material. Our sampling came in with higher rate of PCBs than was allowable at the lower cost placement site. And that came in, DMMO comes to us, we say, okay, we got to do more testing. Testing takes some time in the lab, but to stay on schedule, we posted it for bid, and we issued an addendum with an updated bid table that allows the contractors to add in different pricing schemes based on location. Went back to the DMMO, second round of testing came through, and ultimately we can't place at any of the cheaper in-bay sites. We have to go, the options would be deep ocean disposal way out in the ocean, which would require more approval, and it's higher risk with the weather and wave conditions out there. Or Montezuma, foundation and cover. And so Montezuma is a beneficial use site, kind of up in the delta. It's a well-established site, which is kind of a win-win. You get more habitat creation, and we're allowed to place there. So because of this DMMO issue and the high rates of PCBs, we, with our consultant Foth, updated the price table. So curtains went up to the 2.3 million. And to note, Dutra's was the secondary bid. Their price also went up. So I just wanted to explain a little bit of why, when we opened the bid, it said 1.08 million, and now we're asking for 2.3. I also want to relay that we have a high degree of confidence in this. Our engineer's estimate was 2 to 3.1 million, so 2.3 is kind of in a comfortable range. And this is the same consultant that we've used for previous dredging episodes. And they've all gone well, so we have a decent amount of confidence. And I'll just touch really quickly fiscal impact. We have 3.95 million authorized, and so this comes in at 1.974 with the WETA share once we're reimbursed by the Harbor District. So in a comfortable range under the fiscal impact. And with that, that concludes my verbal presentation, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Director Faust?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm wondering, with the two different bidders that came in, and you said that staff thought it could go upwards to 3.1, roughly.
Correct.
That's what. Why would Dutra's bid be 5.5 million more? You might not be able to answer that, and I need to ask Dutra, but that is a big discrepancy between the two bidders.
Yeah, so I mean, that's something that we certainly thought about a lot. And I think one is they actually had a small company as a subcontractor. And generally speaking, that bumps up their price a little bit. Plus maybe, you know, they're just busy. And so that reflects an honest price that for them at this point, compared to Curtin, which hasn't done as much work in the Bay Area recently, where they want to kind of get back in business here in San Francisco Bay. But yeah, it was a notable spread between the two bids.
And you feel comfortable, though, that Curtin,
yes,
won't come back and say, oh, guess what we found? More something, something, something.
Yeah, we're confident because Curtin's proposal is right in that engineer's estimate, which is the 2 to 3.1 million. And Curtin did work for us before in Vallejo, I think in 2019, and that went well. And basically the main sticking point here was the final placement site, which we've concluded is going to be Montezuma, a combination of foundation and cover. So we know their price point, we know where it's going, we know the quantities.
Thank you.
Other directors? Is anyone signed up on item number 8 for comment?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to speak? Hearing none, can we get a motion on item number 8?
I'll make the motion to award the contract to Curtin Maritime for the South San Francisco dredging.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Dew,
Yes.
Director Faust,
Yes.
Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Thank you. Congratulations. Let's get to work.
Nice presentation, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Item number 9, public comments for non-agenda items. Are there anyone signed up to speak on item number 9?
No one has signed up
On
to
something
speak.
not on the agenda. Would anyone like to speak on an item, on anything you'd like to say to this board? This is your chance, and the clock is ticking. Okay, if not, and I see none and I hear none, we will close the public comment period. So we're going to step into a closed session at this point. for a public employee performance evaluation conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957B1 and 54957.6 for the title Executive Director, Agency Designated Representative James Wonderman. So we're going to go into closed session. We'll come out in a little while and report out. And thank you all. Yeah, that was quite a chasm on the bid. It's like, hey, let's just ask for 6, maybe we'll get it.
Yeah,
right?
right?
I mean, that would be, it does say something.
Yes.
Yeah. All righty then, so we have returned from closed session, and item number 11 is potential approval of amendment to the executive director employment agreement. So just want to say, we've had, very positive, we did a very thorough review of Seamus Murphy's performance and contract, and, I say unequivocally that this board is supportive of Seamus's continued service, and we want to, support you and elevate you and do anything we can, because you've been a real, just been a real friend to this agency and to transit in the region, and, we're very, very fortunate to have you aboard, and, we've seen the progress made, and there were a lot of comments, so I'll just try to reflect on them at the high level, but, just many, many positive comments about your performance, and it's just, it's fun to watch, and, even these meetings, just to see the feeling that you get from the staff and the support everybody has for each other, and the sense of teamwork and people, reflecting on each other's work and so forth, and it's obvious you've created a culture and are, continue to create a culture of mutual support and camaraderie, and that the work that the people on your team are doing, I think everybody feels it's really important, and we're not seeing a heck of a lot of turnover for sure, and it's and instead, there's a sense of excitement and moving forward. So, congratulations, and with that, I would like to make a motion to approve an amendment to the employment agreement with the executive director. The amendment increases base salary by 5% with a new amount of $367,800 and extends the agreement term until December 31st, 2031. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Any members of the public signed up to speak on item number 11?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone who's here or within listening range wish to speak? Any further comments from the board?
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for your leadership. As was mentioned, the staff morale and the teamwork of the cohesiveness of the team is really something phenomenal, and I attribute that to you. And I also want to say how great it is how you have taken this organization from recovery to expansion and really leading us into new adventures that are going to be really exciting. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Dew. Others?
I'll just add ditto to both of what my esteemed colleagues have said. I think you've heard a lot of comments and feedback from all of us, Seamus, but thank you to you and the team and all of your families for the time and energy you all give to this agency. It's bigger probably than anything else that's going on, and so thank you very much.
Couldn't agree more. It's a real tribute to your professionalism and hard work. And you've got a great staff, and that's due in large part to you. So keep up the good work.
Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Dew,
Yes.
Director Faust,
Yes.
Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Yay. Well done. Thank you all, and again, thank you, Monique and Stephen, for helping to reshape that process, which I think was a step forward. And with that, in memory of former Alameda County Supervisor Scott Haggerty, who recently passed away, let's adjourn the meeting and have a great summer, everybody.
Thank you.
2-0 France.
That's 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.